Okay, hello everybody. Today, well, I guess technically it's not today anymore. It's the next day that I'm actually filming this video, but I couldn't think of yeah, I couldn't think of what I wanted to say about this movie. I don't know why I was having such a problem gathering my thoughts, but I was. So this is about a boy who writes scary stories, and I guess we find out a little bit later on in the movie that his so-called best friend turns out not to really be that great of a guy, and just abandons him for another group of people. And then he kind of gives up on his scary stories because he thought that was the only person that really cared about him, or really cared about the stories. And then he ends up just being called weird and creepshow and a whole bunch of other names, and kind of bullied out of even writing books at all. But he ends up keeping his books, and I guess he runs away from home at the beginning of the movie. Is the concept, I suppose. Anyway, he ends up getting lured into this other apartment building with his favorite food. I think it was pumpkin pie, if I'm remembering correctly. And obviously a scary movie playing on the TV. And then he gets shut into this apartment, and when he tries to escape, it ends up just kind of being constantly, he keeps coming back to the same place. And the apartment is basically a giant illusion, but it is owned by this witch named I almost want to say Natasha. Was it Natasha? That's what yeah. And his name is Alex, and the girl he ends up meeting in the apartment, her name is Yasmin, but he calls her Yaz for short. So Alex was played by Winslow Fegley, Yasmin was played by Lydia Jewett, and Natasha was played by Kristen Ritter, and I don't know who the other, Jess Brown played his mom, and Matthew Borasaw played his dad. I'm not really sure who played the other witch, but, oh, I guess, was that it? No, that was the, I don't even know if it has who played the other witch on here at all. So anyway, he has to tell Natasha a scary story every night, or otherwise he will face, basically he'll be killed if he doesn't tell a scary story every night. That's what Natasha wants, and she threatens death pretty much every time she gets the chance. Otherwise, there's something that happens to the house when he doesn't tell a scary story, and the stories can't have a happy ending. And we're not really sure what that is, but he ends up getting a writer's block when he gets to the point where he's told that he has to write a story. He ends up getting writer's block and not being able to think of anything to write. So he just uses old stories from his one of the books that he'd been writing in before, and eventually he starts finding these notes in all these old books in this huge, giant, library. But apparently all the books have been read before, and there's these notes in this book about this girl, I guess, ended up finally escaping because there's this cabinet with all of Yaz's friends in there, and they've been turned into, I don't know, almost like little figurines. It's kind of odd. And then we find out, he finds the Grimm Fairy Tales book from I guess the Brothers Grimm, if you've ever seen that movie. And the one story they kind of fixated on was the Hansel and Gretel one. And eventually, when they think that they've escaped from the apartment and they get into the forest, they actually haven't escaped at all. And it ends up just leading them to the house, and Yasmin gets transfixed on all the candy. And I don't know why Alex would have even eaten it when he seemed to be the one that wasn't brainwashed yet, but he ends up taking some of the candy too, and obviously he ends up getting brainwashed. And then when he wakes up, Yasmin and the cat, now what was the cat's name? I wish I could remember the cat's name. Oh right, Lenore. Lenore was the cat's name. And I guess she was a prisoner too, they find out, because the only way they were able to escape, obviously, was to put Natasha to sleep. So they end up finding out what potion they need to be able to create to do that, and it ends up being Lenore the cat that ends up putting the potion in her perfume that she uses every night, and I guess that's what actually we find out is what actually is giving Natasha her powers, because the real witch is actually the witch from the, or the way I understood it anyway, was the actual witch from the Grimm fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel, and she had found a way to put her to sleep and I guess draw her powers from her, and this witch actually needs scary stories to be told to her. It keeps her asleep, and if they have a happy ending, she will wake up. So Alex does the stupid thing and decides to have his. Once he confronts his own fears and tells his own story about how he was no longer wanting to write stories and burn his books, um, he ends up saying that coming to this apartment and being trapped was the best thing that happened to him, and the witch ends up waking up, and there's kind of this fight between the two of them, and I kind of felt bad for, honestly, Natasha, because in a way, I know that she wasn't necessarily... She ends up being the girl that was writing in all these books, all these notes about her unicorn pendant, and all these other things, and she wasn't in the cabinet, so Alex notices like the jewelry on them and the watch and stuff and certain things, and says, yeah, that unicorn necklace isn't in here, so that means that she escaped, so that's how we are going to escape, because we know that somebody has been able to do it, but I guess Natasha's escape was gaining the powers from the witch rather than actually escaping herself, and it's kind of interesting because now that the witch is awake and they ended up actually killing her at the end of the movie, I'm not really sure how Natasha is going to get her powers, because right at the end you can see one of Yaz's friends. It starts, the little figurine, you can hear it start to crack, and then Natasha's hand comes down into the frame. So I didn't think she was dead, but I also feel bad for her that she was trapped there, because at the end of the movie you find out Yaz was there for 3 years. So yeah, she was missing for 3 years, and I'm not really sure how long Alex was missing, whether it was a week, a day, I don't really know, but wasn't quite as long as Yasmin, that's for sure. So, yeah, I kind of felt bad for Natasha, like I was saying, that she was trapped there, because if they were trapped there that long, and she started out as a kid, when she was first there, how many years has she been trapped there? Like, my God. And I know she could have probably ended up escaping herself, instead of, being greedy and wanting the powers for herself. But I guess she did. I guess she did escape, though, because she went back home, and when she found out that her parents weren't there anymore, they had left, I guess they had given up hope, so she ended up giving up hope and actually went back. That's right, I forgot about that part. So she went back to, I guess, become the new witch. And I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what the sequel brings. I actually did really enjoy this movie. It kind of reminded me, if I could compare it to any other movie that I've seen, it kind of reminded me of The House with the Clock on Its Walls with Jack Black. Kind of a similar vibe, I found. And I think that's all I can really say about the movie. There were definitely some good scenes in this movie. I think the best scene was probably when they go into Natasha's garden, and they end up, it seems that Yaz has created these creatures. Instead of mixing bat's blood like she was supposed to, she ended up putting rat's blood into it. So she ends up creating these weird, like, half rat skeleton, like, weird things. They call them shredders. And they end up destroying Alex's books at one point, so he has to come up with some random ideas off of some blank pages eventually, because he has nothing to go off of because of the night that they decide to try to knock Natasha out at dinner time. So, or put her to sleep with the potion would be the better way to put that, not knock her out. But other than that, I think that's all I can say. Oh, and my rating for this movie, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was that good. Not quite a 10 out of 10. I can't really pick out any flaws in this movie. It was good from beginning to end. I just didn't. It wasn't like the woohoo, like I really got to go back and see this type movie. But I would watch it again with somebody else for sure. Now IMDb, I don't know. Sometimes they rate their movies, I think, awfully low, or maybe it's just the type of people that thought they were going to really enjoy this movie and then didn't. But they rated it a 5.8 compared to my 8. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see if there's even a sequel made. I'm not really sure how well this movie did. It is a Netflix movie, and sometimes they're kind of hit and miss. I would say this one was a good one, so you should probably go watch it. But that's just my opinion. And as always, I say, form your own opinion and don't just listen to everybody else who reviews the movie, because you never know, you could enjoy it for yourself. So, yeah, always go watch the movie and see what you think of it. And I guess I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye for now.